Everybody's favorite segment, Stump My Nephew. We found out years ago that my nephew Sam is fantastic when it comes to gun trivia. So if you send in a question, he'll answer it. The first time he's ever heard it is when we read it to him when we're on the air here. He doesn't get to prepare. He's got to work right from memory, and he does a fantastic job. So if you send in a question, we use it on the air, we'll give you a hat or a shirt, whichever you prefer. And if you stump my nephew, then we'll give you a cool special prize. Okay. So, Sam, how you doing, man?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we're gonna do something a little different, Alicia. You know how we've been we've for years we've been asking questions, right?
Right.
And then about a month ago or so, we had somebody write in and say, "Hey, I need some advice."
Yes.
Right. So this is kind of a hybrid, Sam. We're kind of doing a little bit of both. I ran across this question from a guy named James Nash, and he is from Rigorous Living. You can find him on YouTube at Rigorous Living, James Nash.
Yep.
Hadn't heard of him before, but he proposed a question out there, and then I couldn't find the answer. I'm not even sure the question is answerable. So it's a little bit trivia, and it's a little bit advice, but I wanted to see what your thoughts were. What do you think? You think was this going to go over, Alicia? Is this going to go well?
I think there is an answer, and I think Sam's going to give it.
Okay, all right.
So I know what the question is.
You know the question?
I do.
All right. Sam, you ready? You ready for this?
Sure, let's have it.
Okay, here's the question from James Nash, Rigorous Living. You can find him on YouTube. You can find him on social media. So let her rip.
It's a pretty wild
Recoil experts, here's a question for you. What is going to have more recoil, assuming that the guns weigh the same amount? A 12 gauge shooting a 7/8 ounce load or a 20 gauge shooting a 7/8 ounce load? If the powder charges are the same and the load is the same, which one is going to give you more felt recoil? All right, recoil experts, here's a question for you.
There you go. Okay.
Same powder charge, same load. The guns weigh the same amount. That really is a tough question. I think it would get into calculating bolt thrust, which I don't know how to do.
You don't?
No, not off the top of my head. I will say anecdotally, I have shot 12 gauge reloads that are, they don't use 20 gauge load data, or load data, however you prefer to pronounce it, but they were like feather light target loads, which have the same amount of shot mass as a typical 20 gauge load, 7/8 of an ounce as opposed to 1 1/8. But they're for target shooting, so you don't need quite as much shot in the shot column. You just need the better pattern you get from a 12 gauge, and you get a lot less recoil because there's less mass going down range at the same velocity.
Well, I'll tell you what, while you're thinking about it, Sam.
This is a really tricky one.
It is tricky, but while you're thinking about it, while you're kind of working through it, let's say Alicia and I know nothing about shotguns. So what would kind of explain the question? What exactly is this guy asking? What is the question, and why is it even a question?
He's asking about basically loading a 20 gauge load into a 12 gauge shell and firing it through a 12 gauge shotgun. This is birdshot we're talking about. So the mass of the payload that's going down range is measured in fractions of an ounce of shot. And the wad adds some negligible amount to that. A typical 12 gauge load you'll see on the shelf for birdshot, number 7, number 8 birdshot for waterfowl hunting or for clay target shooting, usually about 1 1/8 ounce. Sometimes you'll get 1 1/4 ounce heavier loads to put more pellets downrange, but sometimes you'll see 1 ounce loads or 7/8 ounce loads for target shooting. Because again, if you're not trying to take down birds, if you just need to hit a clay target with something to break it, you don't need more shot in the shot column. You just need enough to fill out that shot pattern so that you don't have pellets going past it on either side. I don't know if I really explained that very well, but the you do get an advantage in my experience from having the same load in a 20 gauge shotgun because it will pattern wider. I don't know if that has to do with the wad or just exclusively because of the bore diameter. I would imagine it's a combination. But Mr. Nash here asked about recoil. Will the 12 gauge recoil more than the 20 gauge or vice versa using effectively the same load? And I know this gets into bolt thrust, and I don't know how to calculate bolt thrust. I would have to look up the equation, which would be cheating, so I won't do it. I will say, just I'm going off of vibes here, which I hate to do. I would say I would imagine the 20 gauge would recoil more because the pressure of gas at the muzzle will be higher, assuming the same barrel length. But I don't think that's a very good answer. So I'm just going to throw that out there and say that as my answer. I really want to hear what the actual answer is, if he has it.
We don't have it. Okay, so but just to recap, so you got a 20 gauge barrel, you have a 12 gauge barrel. Like I said, this is half trivia and half just discussion, just opinion. You have a 20 gauge barrel, you have a 12 gauge barrel. 12 gauge barrel is obviously larger than the 20 gauge barrel. You have a larger diameter. Both guns are the same weight, and we're going to assume both barrel lengths are the same. You have the exact same amount of projectiles in each, and you have the exact amount of powder in each. So same exact load. It's just that one is a bigger diameter than the other. And he's asking, hey, which is more felt recoil? And you're saying that because you have the same amount of stuff, meaning projectile and explosive, going down a smaller channel, that it will probably have more felt recoil than a 12 gauge.
My guess, and again, this is purely a guess on my part, I don't have anything really firm to back it up. My guess is that because there is less volume inside an equal length barrel of a smaller diameter, the pressure of gas at the muzzle when that bottle gets uncorked, so to speak, will be higher, which will contribute to greater felt recoil. But again, that's just a guess. I don't know. If you'd like me to, I can open up a new tab and look up the bolt thrust equation.
No,
but that I think goes against the spirit of the question.
You don't have to do that right now. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting question. I thought it was, why do people, in your opinion, typically why would somebody pick it in this day and age if you're going to go out and shoot clays or shoot birds or whatever, or for any reason, why would you pick a 20 gauge over a 12 gauge?
I think you'd probably pick a 20 gauge for really two reasons. One is because you might already have a large supply of 20 gauge shells, or wherever it is you're going, 20 gauge shells are easy to find, so it doesn't make a difference, 12 gauge versus 20. And the second is that 20 gauge loads are usually loaded softer, just because it's a smaller shell, so they put less stuff in it. Now, that isn't a requirement. You can make a really stout recoiling 20 gauge load, but again, usually, as I said a few minutes ago, usually a 20 gauge load will have 7/8 of an ounce of shot, versus a typical 12 gauge load will usually have 1 1/8 ounce of shot. So it's a difference of a 1/4 ounce at roughly the same velocity out of an equal length barrel, meaning the 20 gauge should recoil a little bit less just because you're sending less stuff out there. Now, in my opinion, there isn't much reason to get a 20 gauge in this day and age. In my opinion, because of the greater availability of shotguns in 12 gauge, including youth models with short stocks and a little bit shorter barrels.
You can even buy mini 12s too.
Yeah, and
right.
Because of mini shells and because you can get featherlight target loads.
Yep.
And because 12 gauge ammunition is actually cheaper than 20 gauge last I checked, which in turn is cheaper than 410 for whatever reason, 12 gauge is logistically, it's the 9mm of shotguns, in my opinion.
Interesting. What do you think, Alicia?
So I tried to do a little bit of research. And I wasn't able to find an accurate answer because everybody that attempted to approach the topic always said that, as Sam mentioned, and also the question addressed, is that in this proposed question, you have to assume that each shotgun has the same weight, right? The same design, same build, same weight. All the answers that I was finding is it always mentions the truth of most 20 gauges are going to be built lighter, smaller, right? And they take that into account, and so therefore their answer is, but the question was different. So I wasn't able to find, unless I do math, right? The whole. I did find the equation that Sam referenced, and I looked at it, I'm like, there's no way that I can do that. So I think to get the true answer, you'd have to do the math that Sam mentioned. But I was like, if Sam can't get this from the top of his head, I don't know anybody can.
Sam, what do you think the point of his question is? What point was he trying to make?
I don't know. I think the point he was trying to make was to get people to think.
Yeah.
But do you think he was? Do you think that he was trying to make the point that I think he was trying to make the point that most people would be surprised that a 20 gauge would have more felt recoil than a 12 gauge. And
well, that hinges on the assumption that I'm right and that a 20 gauge would recoil more in this hypothetical. So I really don't know what point he was trying to make. I'd have to know the actual correct answer authoritatively to be able to make an assessment there. Again, my answer was just conjecture. I don't have any proof for it.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, how about next week? Do you want to look it up and have an answer? How long would it take you to get an answer?
Oh, it wouldn't be too difficult.
I've got the equation.
I would just have to look some stuff up.
All right. Well, next week when we talk again, you come back with the definitive answer, and we'll talk about it again.
Well, my trusty TI-84 Plus and I will come up with an answer for you.
And you just put up a blog on Monday, right?
I did, yes. I put up a blog post about firearm manufacturing companies having names of other firearm manufacturers. It's I think it's a little more interesting that I'm making it sound. But for example, I mentioned the fact that Springfield Armory, the company, and the Springfield Armory, the government entity, are two totally separate entities. And I talk about more companies that are like that. And I actually came up with a list of companies that are like that so long that I had to split it into at least 2 blog posts.
Oh, nice. And where do they
Part
find
one's already. That is at gunownersradio.com/blog.
Okay, cool. All right, Sam, thank you so much. Look forward to hearing what the definitive answer is on which has more felt recoil between the 20 gauge and the 12 gauge with exact same loads and same weight and same barrel length. And so we'll hear from you next week, see what it is.
All right. Thanks for the question. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. Take care.
If you liked that segment, be sure to give us a like, a comment, and go to youtube.com/gunownersradio and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to share us with a friend. Every view counts.